I bet that was quite tough.
Yeah, it's had its moments.
Yeah. He was just staggeringly brilliant at cricket. We had some real bad luck in the early 70s, mid 70s or whatever it was. No, later than that. Anyway, whatever it was. It was a bank holiday and Retford played Chesterfield and this lad of 16, 17 was playing and he just murdered us. And we all went, great, what a player. Yeah. And then on the Monday, that was a Saturday, on the Monday we played Chesterfield at second team level at Queen's Park. And guess who they put in the second team?
Right.
In Blackwell, he got like 150. And at the end of the two games, we became pretty good friends. And I see him very occasionally now. I think he's an umpire, isn't he? Or he is an umpire.
I saw him at Scarborough a couple of years ago. I didn't realise it was him, and I didn't get to speak to him because not until the tea interval did I realise it was him. But I took him to a GCSE moderation one year, and a lot of the teachers there disputed my grading that I'd given him. I gave him a 10 out of 10 for his batting, and they said, this lad's not a 10 out of 10 batsman. I'm telling you, he is. After quite a long discussion, they agreed that I might be right. When they picked him for England a few years later, I did remind them.
You did remind them. Yeah, he was a really good player, but he was never big-headed. He was always approachable. He was a good bloke. Good bloke.
Yeah. Could be very entertaining.
Right. Yes, John.
Just very quickly, you know, the Sheffield World Cup team, I was talking to my brother about it last night, and he came up with a very good idea, I thought, that Glyn and others might have already thought of, that we do a booklet, a small booklet with all the candidates in, a picture and a potted biography. But when the presentation takes place in the libraries and the museums eventually, that there is an actual a booklet to go with it about the different players and managers that we've selected from. So everybody knows all about it.
John, I'm into booklets big time for the Irish College, using your photo books. But I do is slides with a slight bio, some context pictures, and a photograph of the individual. Like you imagine for the dam busters, it's Gibson, the dam's bursting, and a bio on him. And you know, if you keep the limit to 20 pages, you can do 11 by 8, which is A4 size photo boxing. And well, if I say the college or the Crown Island Association have bought 500 of them for next year's commemoration, they can be quite good and they're easy to make. So if you want any help with it,
I think it'd go down well. Thank you, Ian.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Lol, where are you? Where's Lol? Oh, he's disappeared. Hello, Lol.
Has he not come back?
Can you bang on the ceiling?
Yeah, he's come back. We've just got an empty chair.
He's either breaking news or breaking wind.
Here he is.
Oh, he's on phone to me now.
Yes.
Sky Sports News.
Yeah.
Hello, Lol.
What? We were talking about Chris. We were talking about Jerry Young earlier on because he'd passed away in the last few days, and what a good player he'd been.
Jerry Young has died.
Yep.
Jerry Young's died, aged 83.
I didn't know that. Sorry, I didn't know that.
No, it's really sad, and a terrific player and a really nice bloke as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. He was Sheffield through and through.
Yeah.
Lol's got problems with his computer, so we will now move straight on to Chris's story. So
I thought you were going to say Chris's end then, and I was going to get a bit worried.
No, let's not go there. So, Chris.
Yes.
There's just a couple of main things that we've missed out so far. And I think the first of them is the rebuilding of the Retford Pavilion. Can you tell us all about that, please?
And why did you burn it down?
It's quite a tale, but it does have a good conclusion. But at the time that it occurred, it was one of the worst things I've ever had to deal with. And the background very quickly was it was in 1977 I accepted being the secretary of the club. Young secretary, I was available, so they got me involved. And I was acting secretary for a gentleman who was very ill. And then he had to give up the post. So in February 78, they duly voted me in as secretary of Retford Cricket Club, I was very proud of, being thought that I could do it. And 6 months later, we just won the championship. Keith Jackson was on the front of the pavilion, and we were celebrating winning the championship for the third time in a row. Happy, happy days. And the following week, I was at home in bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. Police came round. Are you the secretary? Yes. I think you better come with us because there's a bit of a problem down at the ground, which is about a mile away. And when they got there were 17 firemen from 3 crews. And for 2 hours, they battled the pavilion fire, which, being a wooden building, really was a lost cause. And on Friday morning, at 1 o'clock in the morning, Friday the 15th of September, the pavilion went. To been there since 1906, cost 300 quid. And everything the club had, from a teaspoon to a flag, to the roller, you name it, that a cricket club has to have, it was completely gone. And I have the dubious honour, it's not an honour, sorry, I have the dubious distinction of being the only person in Retford Cricket Club to actually see it on fire. It was shocking. I still think about it, and it was terrible. Does that convey how bad it was? That's the sort of newspaper headline. Can everyone see that? Okay.
Yeah.
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 And then in the morning, a dear friend of Keith Jackson and myself, Alan Bull, a player, he got to the ground with me, and there was nothing we could do. We just sort of looked at nothing really, just smouldering ruins.
Could you pull it back a bit, please?
Sorry?
Pull it back a bit, please.
Pull it back. Okay. How about that?
More?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then a little bit later, he and I just stood again. You can see the railings, which play a big part in the club's history. Those railings are still in existence in a certain format.
Did you say they were from Bramall Lane, those railings?
No, the seats in front of behind the railings are from Bramall Lane Pavilion. When the cricket shut down in '73, we were asked if we wanted the seats, and we went and collected about 60 of the seats, 50 of the seats, and they've got the SU logo in them, and there's about 7 of those survived, and they're still at the ground.
It's a nice piece of heritage, then.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, well, the heritage manager at Bramall Lane, John Garrett, wants me to negotiate buying one for the museum, so I'll have to have a go at it and try and get him one. But they have got rich history.
I think it's worth about 25 million, Chris. Get a load of money from United.
Well, you never know. Yeah. Think how much Hillsborough would have been worth if they'd had those seats in as well as the rest of the ground. That would have made it very valuable.
Yeah.
And I fished out the minutes. This is the book I inherited. And they're the first minutes I took following the fire. And just to read them even now, you sort of go, crikey, what a disaster. So what did we do? Well, we picked ourselves up, and the first person to help us was Derek Randall. And Derek Randall is an England player. This is 1978. He's a major England player now. He came back to the ground within a few days and stood there for the press. And he gave his name to a big campaign, and that was really significant because the town got behind the club and decided that instead of the club literally possibly folding, it would get behind the club and we'd raise money. What we did with Derek is we sponsored his batting average in Australia, and he went off and he had a wonderful tour in Australia, won the Ashes in the average 47 point something in the Test series. So everyone who sponsored his runs, his average, that raised £2,000 in 1978. So there were all sorts of ideas. One bookmaker even sponsored Higgins versus Reardon in a match in Retford. He'd sponsor the highest break. And I think that was about 60, 70 quid. So ideas, little ideas, big ideas just started flooding in. But Derek was the catalyst. I give him 100% credit for what he did. One of the most unusual things, Keith Jackson, was we played on Boxing Day.
We did, yeah.
And there's Keith and my dad, and we played in the snow. And we played local rivals. You remember it, Keith?
Yeah, Brian.
We played
For
with
the
our
Ashes.
local rivals, and we raised money, and that went in the pot as well. So all sorts
played
of
for
things
the Ashes.
happened.
We played for the Ashes, didn't we? And we had a little urn
Yeah, we
about
did.
so big.
Yeah,
with Ashes in it. It's on the pavilion.
that's right. Yeah, I'd forgotten
Brilliant.
that. We played for the Ashes. Yeah, we
Did
did.
you play with a white ball?
It would have been a bit difficult. If you hit that ball that day on the ground, you didn't get any runs at all. But you had to hit it in the air and try and get a run before somebody found it.
I tell you what, we got so wrapped up that we thought it was going to be freezing, and you were sweating like mad because it wasn't that cold actually on the day.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't a bad day to play actually, fortunately.
That day went on for about 3 or 4 years. We actually
did?
played
Yeah,
that
it did.
match and raised money for 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was an amazing thing to do, and very generous of our opposition, Gareth Jones and Bryden, who all came to help us.
Yeah.
So as secretary, I'm involved now up to my neck in planning applications, architect, fundraising. I didn't really expect that when I took the job on. But we kept going, and in 22 months, we raised £36,000, which included the insurance settlement on what was a wooden pavilion, so about 8,000 or 9,000 on that. The rest of it was fundraising. And then on the 13th of July, 1980, Derek Randall came and opened the new pavilion. And there he is cutting the ribbon, only 22 months on from having lost everything.
I'm sorry
Then-
for interrupting, Chris.
Yes.
Chris, I'm very sorry for interrupting, but
No.
the obvious question, what was the cause of the fire?
Yeah.
With his policeman.
Well,
dressed
I skirted over that. In my dad's autobiography, unpublished, he names the names. He knows, and I know.
It was the
And
RAF.
we have,
It was the
but we
RAF.
have no
Chris.
evidence. Pardon?
It was the RAF. It was Battle of Britain Day, 15th of September.
Well, they did used to go over Retford Cricket Ground in the war. Yeah,
So what
the
we're
official
talking
answer is
was it just-
arson. It was an arson attack,
Arson. Right, thank you.
and
I'll
the
ask
dad
Belmo.
definitely knew, and I know who did it, but we can't
Right.
do anything about that. That's in the past,
Right.
and we move on. But it was a nasty reprisal, and it went unpunished. But
That's awful.
after all the efforts, after that day, was it a blessing? In some respects, it was a blessing because that pavilion is now 40 years old. It's a fantastic facility. It's in use by everybody. The club kept going.
Yeah. And it brought the
So-
community together, didn't it?
It got the town together and the correct, which again, you know, is very easy to forget. Can I just say that when Derek did that, he then got in his car and went to play for Notts in the John Player League that afternoon. So, you know, you can't ask for greater commitment than that. Someone was going to ask a question. Colin. Colin.
Hang on, let's unmute him. Hang on. Yes, Colin.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Chris why they didn't use the old site and they built it on the site of the old tennis courts, the new pavilion.
Yeah. There were two major reasons, Colin. One was we just couldn't afford a split level pavilion on that site. That old pavilion was split level with the equipment underneath. And it was just astronomical to build split level. And the second thing was all the services, electricity, water, gas, were on the other side of the ground.
Oh, right,
So
yeah,
it was
where the tennis
purely
courts are.
practical reasons, practical reasons. I just want to say one thing, guys. That's the old pavilion. And you've seen that on pictures of my grandpa, my granddad, JB. That's 1949. You can see the old traditional pavilion. That's the one that went. And that's the one that now, that's the one that now occupies a different part of the ground. As Colin said, it's on a different site. And that was, that's the pavilion now. What I would like to offer through Keith, if I can, is that brochure. Sorry. That brochure, I would dearly like to offer anybody in the group. I'd like anyone to have one. I have got some spares. It's a brochure that contains a lot of the stuff that you've listened to very patiently. But if anyone wants one of those, I'll get them to Keith and you can have them at the next meeting or something like that. It'd be my pleasure and my way of saying thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So,
Chris, I noticed on that thing, a woman was your president.
I'm sorry, who was president?
A woman. That's got to be quite novel. Would that be the right word? To have, I think in 2008, your president was a woman.
Yeah.
Not many cricket clubs can boast that.
No, very briefly, Mr. Mudford, Michael Mudford of Mudford Marquees. Some of you may be familiar. Yeah. Family business in Retford. Fantastic supporter of the club. So generous.
Right.
When he passed away, his wife Joan said, "Chris, do you mind me asking you something?" I went, "You asked me anything." She said, "Would you mind if I was the president?"
Yep.
Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to. Right.
Sorry. And she was the first lady president in the history of the club, so well spotted. And she has remained president for many years, up to her recent ill health. And she did that in the memory of Michael. Well spotted. She's the only woman president of the club ever.
Well done, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay, Chris.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry
Can
about
we
that,
move on?
everybody, by the way.
It's all right. So, Chris, can we move on to the second item? That it's a terrific story. So, I'll leave you to tell us the story.
Is this the story of Diana?
Yes.
Right. Okay, guys. I'll try to concentrate things down. But it's a good tale. In 1997, we all experienced the surprise and then the pain of Diana suddenly dying. And the cricket season was still being played in September. There was about 2 games to go. And that week, most things were cancelled in respect of her and her funeral, which was to take place on the following Saturday. And I think I can recall international rugby being cancelled. Most leagues cancelled what was due to be held on that day. And so we just took it as read. We sent a letter saying, obviously, we'll replay our opposition whenever you like on that Saturday, blah, blah, blah. And we were instructed by our league to play the game, or games, first team, second team, on that day. League games are to continue. Nationally, everything has been shut down out of respect. So as a club, Mr. and Mrs. Mudford as president, our sponsors, the committee, the players, we all said, no. We're not playing cricket during the funeral. It's just not going to happen. It's not the wishes of people in the town. So we wrote to the league saying that we're not playing. I personally, as secretary, locked the ground up and put some flowers on the gate. I remember doing that. And we didn't play. Well, the following week, we got this letter from the league. And that letter says, you were wrong. You lose all points, 40 points, 20 points to your opposition in both leagues. And you're a very bad club. So that didn't go down too well locally. It didn't go down a storm with people. And I've still got a scrapbook at home filled with letters from people all over the country, not from Retford, but from all over the country, that sent a letter saying, you did the right thing there. Well done. You shouldn't have played. And nobody should have played. Anyway, we then sit in a committee about how we're going to fundraise for 1998, who we're going to support in our fundraising. And I don't know who came up with it, but the obvious one was the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund. And we wrote a letter, and I got a response straight away from Kensington Palace, which is this letter. And it's saying, yeah, thank you. We would love to, lend the logo and lend the support, and we wish you well. And it's signed by a man called Paul Burrell. And I had no idea, guys, who that was. Honestly, I did not know who that was. And that night, I put the telly on, because it was on about Diana again, and he's being interviewed. And I suddenly realised the guy that's just written to me is the head of the fundraising. And he's the butler. He's the rock. So I wrote again to ask him to physically come and be the guest of honour. And he did. And there he is opening the proceedings in 1998 on our gala day. The people in the picture at the back from here, from my finger, are my dad. And then it goes into Arnie Sidebottom, who was helping again. And then behind him, you've got Ashley Metcalf, Martin Moxon, Ian Snodden, who was Doncaster Rovers manager at the time. Obviously, Paul Burrell, who couldn't play cricket to save his life, but he stood there. And Richard Blakey. So we had a wonderful day, and he stayed all day, and he just was fantastic. And we got to know each other very, very well. And in a way, he became a friend to the club and to myself, because he went through some terrible times. He lost all his money, he lost his reputation over all sorts of allegations, etc., etc. But before I go any further, he says, why don't you come down to London to present your money? Make it a nice day for you. Oh, right, okay, we'll do that. So we went down to his office and we went on Westminster Bridge, foggy day. And after we'd had a cup of tea with him, we presented that cheque. It was £1,500. And previous to that, he'd shown me a cheque in his office on his mantelpiece from Elton John, Candle in the Wind. Anyone remember what that cheque was worth?
100,000.
In the millions, I would have thought.
Several million.
It was
2.5 million.
65 million. I have never seen a cheque like that. Anyway, that's just part of what happened. He said, I've got to go now. So we went for lunch. He went off in a taxi. And quite ironically, one of us took that picture. There he is. He's turned away and he's going to his meeting. I know from what he said, he wasn't looking forward to that meeting, which was with people I'd rather not mention. I have no respect for them, sorry. And they sacked him. They made him redundant from the fundraising manager job that he'd been doing. If you ask me why, I can only say jealousy. I'm not going to say any more, but
Yeah.
he was a commoner from Grassmore in Derbyshire, and the people he was working with weren't commoners. So we supported him. We kept writing to him. His letters changed. That's his letter now to me. That's handwritten, dear Chris. So we've gone less formal, and that's personal comments. There's a lot of stuff in those letters which I would never publish because it's private. But he went off and he had to make his own way in life because he had lost all his money and everything else. And we just kept in touch, and he did a book signing in Retford, which I helped him organise. That was his first book, all about how to fold serviettes and serve champagne. It was very, but it got him on out there. And I haven't seen him to speak to now for about 5 or 6 years. And doing this reminds me that I probably should wing him an email or a letter and just say, "How you doing? How's things?" And
Invite him to the Zoom meeting.
as invited to a Zoom. You'd never know. He's the sort of bloke that might just do it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
So, out of
Is he old enough?
pardon,
Is he old enough?
Is he old enough? Yeah, he's.
yeah,
Yeah.
He's over 55.
he's over 55. Well, I don't know. He might. No, he's
No,
probably
he
not
is.
over that. He's probably not over
50, isn't it, Ian?
Well, we'll have to wait then.
Over 50.
Have to wait.
Right.
So, guys, it's just a tale. When you're involved with a cricket club, you don't end up normally dealing with. It's just an unbelievable set of things that happen. But we raised a lot of money. Ultimately, that was good. And we made a good friend. And he's a member of Retford Cricket Club. He's an honorary member of Retford Cricket Club. And all I can say to you is you can all have opinion. We'll all have opinions. But I met him. I think I know him reasonably well. He's a genuine man. He's a genuine, honest person. And I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah. All right, Chris. Paul, the biscuit, you just wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I just wondered, did the other teams play on the day of the funeral, Chris?
Well, that's a
Teams in
very
the
good
league?
question because they were forced into it. 2 teams didn't play because their ground wasn't owned by them and their ground was shut for them.
Right,
So they didn't play, and the rest of the league turned up and played.
really?
I'm incredulous that such a thing happened, but it did. But if it hadn't happened, we wouldn't have done all the other things. So sometimes things just happen and they're just coincidences. And
It was worth.
but that was a
losing
bad day
40
for the league. And
was worth losing
I
40
wrote a letter personally to the league, not on behalf of the club. And it was a stinger.
Yeah.
It was a stinger.
Right, Chris.
Yes.
Right. We're virtually at the end of the story.
Right.
There's one person who's not been mentioned, and it's like the old saying is, behind every good man there is a good woman.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
so, could you tell us about the good woman, please?
Yeah. How long have I got, Keith? How long have we got?
5 minutes.
Right.
5 minutes.
One thing I want to do, Keith, before that is just give full volume to this. In 2003, my dad and I took my dad to Lord's, and we were both presented with the Oscar for volunteering in cricket. It was a particularly proud day for my dad to go back to Lord's, and he did have a wonderful day, and it was an inadequate reward for all his life in cricket. But I think you've listened to what I've said, and you'll get the drift that that was a pretty special sort of award. The following year, same venue, my mum, who had worked for the club for 55 years by then, was nominated for National Volunteer in Cricket. And she went down to Lord's, excuse me, and that's her at the Oscar ceremony with a man called Keith Pont. And my mum was made runner-up, national runner-up, volunteer in cricket for 2004, which was totally unexpected. She didn't expect that. But she had spent 55 years doing things at cricket, you know, for the cricket club. And I just want to say then, 2004 became an amazing year for my mum, Mary, Mike's dad, Nigel's mum, because although she didn't bat and she didn't bowl, she did get the hat trick in 2004, because having been awarded that award by the ECB, her own club made her a life member of the club, which could not be more fully deserved. And that's her picking up her award. You can see Arnie Sidebottom, my dad, me, West Indian Mike Mosley, great friend of the club's player, and she was made life member of the club. But then she did the hat trick because the Notts County Council, in their sports review of the year at the university in Nottingham, they invited her and she was nominated as Volunteer of the Year in cricket, the only cricket nomination. And that was a great honour for her. But then she was given she was inducted, I should say, into the Roll of Honour of Notts County Council for her work and dedication on fundraising and just work in the community. And that's the hat trick, my mum's 2004 year. And it would have been very remiss, Keith, for me not to finish by saying that without my mum and my dad, but without that family involvement, lots of things would never have happened. And Mary will listen to this. So well done, Mary. And
well done, Mary.
Thanks, guys.
Right.
Thank you, Chris. It's been brilliant.
And there we are at the end of Chris Hall's Hall of Cricket Fame.
I'm still playing.
Yeah. And we'll have to, I don't know what we'll talk about next week, but I'm sure we're going to find something. So, but
it's been a privilege.
Yeah. It has.
Thank you, John.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much, guys.
I think we should have Mrs. Hall on dishing the dirt, the dark corridors of power of the hall.
Who do you want on? Who do you want on? Mum. Oh, she'd come on. She'd do it. Yeah.
She would.
Just taking a step back, I just do not know why a national newspaper like the Daily Express, for instance, didn't get behind Retford Cricket Club in that dispute over, not playing on that particular day, because it deserved receive national support.
It did. It did receive a lot of mentions. But it's just Retford Cricket Club. It don't really matter, does it?
Well, it does. I mean,
it was awful.
It's like the heartland of England, isn't it? I mean,
yes. It was awful.
As a civil servant for 45 years, I've worked with some prats over that time, and this is just the typical thing that an administrator
John.
would do.
Keith, well done, Keith.
And that's
What
not
a
mentioned.
mention.
Oh.
You what, Doug?
I think the MCC should have got involved in that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
dead right.
Nowadays,
The ECB should have issued a, come on lads, we're not
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
cricket on that. That's it. And we'd have played the following Sunday or the following week
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
it was so easy to
okay.
do.
Right, we're down to less than a minute. So
Thanks.
thank
So,
everybody,
Lol, your news
particularly
tomorrow.
Chris.
What about John?
See you.
Your news tomorrow,
We'll
Lol.
finish the news tomorrow.
Oh, God.
We'll see you
There's a lot I
tomorrow.
didn't
The
finish
ones
off
who are
today.
coming, the ones who
Exactly.
aren't. We'll see you next week.
See you tomorrow.
See ya.
Yeah,
Have a good
bye.
meeting.
Bye.
Have a good meeting.